everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Late Winner Show. I have 𝗕𝗲𝗓𝗏 with me from the League on Farmers FC podcast. How are you doing? How are you doing, 𝗕𝗲𝗓?
I'm good, 𝗕𝗲𝗓. Thanks for having me. Excited to be on your podcast again.
Well, great. We are delighted to have you again on as well. Today we're talking about not the Premier League, not the La Liga, not the Liga, and no more Marseille, even though Marseille is doing so well, 𝗕𝗲𝗓. We're actually talking about international football, actually about FIFA, who actually proposed a 2-year World Cup. So we're going to get into a little bit of their detail, like if it's actually feasible, what's Arsene Wenger's idea, like what we're going to get 𝗕𝗲𝗓's thoughts on, like if it's actually a good idea to actually have a 2-year World Cup, or we're going to just go. We're just going to this is just going to be another international tournament and not be that historic or everybody looks forward to that tournament. We're gonna see that and see what 𝗕𝗲𝗓 thinks on that as well. Before we proceed, please make sure that you like, share, and subscribe to our channel, The Late Winner Show. Go and follow us on Instagram and Twitter as well. Actually, follow Jeremy Magan's podcast as well if you are looking to gain knowledge on Ligue 1. He does a weekly episode. He does a weekly podcast on all the Ligue 1 teams. So if you're looking to build knowledge on that, go ahead and listen to 𝗕𝗲𝗓𝗏's podcast as well. And we leave the descriptions, the links below. Let's get started, 𝗕𝗲𝗓. You can pack a lot of things in the 2 years. But a World Cup cycle with all the qualifying campaigns that goes around, a 48-team final tournament, it's a question that FIFA President Gianni Infantino's latest idea has gone to it's gone to the next big fight. We in one corner we have football's governing body, its chief of global development, Arsene Wenger, National Football Federations from the Saudi Arabia to South Africa, and 80-strong group of former managers and players that includes Avram Grant, JJ Okocha, and Michael Owen, and I think even Ronaldo is included in that, and not Cristiano, but the other Ronaldo. In the other corner we have Europe, the governing body UEFA, the clubs, the leagues, the fans groups, and all the players unions. Obviously, we know UEFA has a lot more money, and obviously they have the recent World Cup winners. The former has all the votes going on for them right now. ECA, united against a common external threat, more international football. The chief executive of Manchester City said there is no space for anything, no room at all. The players cannot play more games, that's for sure. Recently appointed president of the of UEFA, 𝗕𝗲𝗓𝗏𝗓, and he's actually the PSG president as well. He said he was trying to be more diplomatic. He said, we want to engage with other stakeholders. A unilateral decision will not help anyone. It's very clear that we need to consult with all stakeholders for decisions on the future of football, and we are ready to discuss it with them. It obviously tells 𝗕𝗲𝗓𝗏 is obviously trying to be very diplomatic here and saying he wants to generate more money. He wants to get the football outside of his owned club. I think it's obviously evident that the next year World Cup is happening in Qatar. He wants to start promoting that as well. What do you think in terms of FIFA World Cup happening every 2 years? Like, do you think it's a good idea, or we should just not even talk about it?
Well, I think in a short sentence, I think it's a bad idea. My gut feeling when I first heard about it is just it's a bad idea. And then you spend a day, 2, even a week talking about it, thinking about it, and then you realize that I think it's a bad idea because I'm French and because I get to see amazing European football every single year, and we hosted the World Cup already on a couple of occasions, and we've hosted the Euros on a couple of occasions, and so I've seen all this amazing high level of football played in my country, played by my country. And so, of course, I'm going to be against it because my players, the star players, are already playing too many games. Their health is not looked after, etc., etc. So I'm on the side of Europe because the money and the prestige is already here. So why would we share it selfishly? But when you look into it, there's a reason for 166 countries out of 210 voting for a World Cup every 2 years. They keep talking FIFA about the backlog, of hosting countries that they have. England has to host the World Cup. China has to host the World Cup. A country in South America has to host the World Cup. They have to do. Morocco has to host the World Cup, and then Australia has to host the World Cup. They have that backlog that almost condemn them to know who's going to host the World Cup until 2046, 2050. So given all those keys, you got to understand FIFA's point of view. It doesn't work for England, France, and Italy and Spain. Gianni Infantino, he works for 210 nations and their football representative. So he has to try and make as many happy as possible, and the World Cup every 2 years, I think it's the way for them to get there. I think it's a bad idea, but I don't know if I think it's a bad idea because it's a bad idea or because my education and the way I've learned and I've known football is clubs come first. Putting the World Cup every 2 years will shift this with the nations maybe becoming more important than the clubs, and the money will shift as well. There's going to be less money in the clubs because you're going to take their players away 3 or 4 months every single year. So they're not going to pay the players as much, and there's going to be more money towards the nation, more sponsors towards the nation. So it'll be a real shift in the way we see football if it does happen. I'm against it. I can understand why people are for it.
Yeah, I think you mentioned about like the money. Obviously, I think FIFA earns about 4 billion pounds every 4 years. But compared to UEFA, who earn 11 billion euros because of their UEFA competitions and the Euro competitions that happen. That's a good point. But what Arsene Wenger's actually been proposing is he's proposed 2 international breaks in March and October, and then groups of 4 nations playing just 6 qualifying games, which Wenger believes will ensure more high stakes and more high emotion games in there. Plans are still in a work in progress. I think he plans to decide everything by the end of this year. But he says that how these 14 groups would be put together is light, but it seems that the smaller teams such as Andorra and San Marino and Gibraltar and all these lower divisions in terms of countries would have to pre-qualify, as already as it already happens in Africa, Asia, and North Central America as well. He says he wants to protect international football, and it depends. He wants to bring more quality than just regularity in terms of playing every 2 years, and it'll just give world-class world-class international fixtures and more memorable tournaments. He also believes that by just having 2 international breaks every year, leading clubs will have advantages of having their players for a longer period of time, and less disruptiveness in the fixture calendars. And he's also proposing a compulsory 25-day rest period for the players after the international tournaments. I kind of agree with him, and I'll take your point as well. But I kind of agree with him because in the next week or so we're going to have this again an international break, which disrupts the momentum of the clubs, of the players, and of even the international clubs, because in the international teams, you don't get them for that much time. You just get them like the next Monday, like after the league's ended, after the weekend's game has ended. You train with them for a couple of days, and then the fixtures begin. I feel like that's a good idea, that you just have like a month where you just play the games, the qualifying games, and then you just play a final tournament in the latter year. What do you think in terms of Arsene Wenger's idea?
I agree with you and with him that something has to be changed as far as international breaks. And I agree actually with those 2 windows of international break. I think it's a good idea to do it that way. The same way I think it would be a good idea to start in August with a month and a half of international football, because then the fitness preparation for the clubs is done with the nation, and it can solve two issues in one. You don't have to do those weird tours all around the world, but you get your players ready. That said, international football doesn't involve every single player of every single club. So those 1 month group, although they'll be great for the internationals, for the people that are not going to play in their country, then do they lose their momentum? Do they lose their preparation? How many friendly games can you pack into a year, or do you decide to create cup competitions where the superstars are not going to be there, and then is it fair? So I think regardless, football is definitely getting into a crossroads now where on one hand there's too many games, on another hand there's so much money made that you want to keep milking to be able to get as much money as possible, and everyone is trying to sort of find a solution that works best for their own camp. And right now Wenger's camp is FIFA. So like I said, I think his proposal does make sense for a lot of reasons. You'll always be able to find pros and cons to any major change like this one. I think one of the cons also of that World Cup every 2 years is back in the 80s or 90s, the winner of the Champions League, you would know who he is because only one team for each country was able to play that tournament. And so if you don't win your league, you don't play the Champions League. So when you win the Champions League, it's a 2-year circle preparation that you succeeded to be able to win the Champions League, and then people remember you. Now we sort of know who won the Champions League between 2010 and 2021, but it's hard to remember exactly who it is because there's so many amazing games coming up. You might remember a quarter final more than you remember the actual final of the Champions League because it's not rare anymore. And I think if you start putting the World Cup every 2 years, there's also going to be that shift where it's not going to be that important to win the World Cup anymore. It's not going to be, next year is Cristiano Ronaldo and Messi's last chance at winning, and they only have 4 chances in their career to win it, maybe 5 chances if they're amazing players. Well, that's going to be gone because now you play every 2 years. So if you're injured this year, you're not going to have those amazing stories of the player who played through injury so he could win, and then he's not going to be able to play anymore for 2 years like it happened to 𝗕𝗏𝗕𝗏 with France, for example, in 2018. And I think this is something that people want. I don't know if you watch France Brazil as much if it happens every 2 years for a big competition. Maybe, like I said, maybe the countries that don't have a chance to participate in the World Cup, and we say that offline, if you get to host the World Cup, then a country that maybe wouldn't have a chance through qualification now will play on the bigger scene, and that's, to me, that's such an upside. You get to discover a new culture when a World Cup is played in a country. They get to play against the biggest team, and I think it's a great idea, but it's something's got to give if you go that way, and what's going to give is almost 100% the health of the player, and the way they play football right now is going to be different. And that's always going to be the argument, I think, from UEFA and FIFPro, the union of the professional footballer, is they need to keep the player's health front of mind. I don't know if they do that if you put a World Cup every 2 years, or again, you're going to have to rock the boat a lot to be able to get there.
Yeah, I think I agree with you because, like, I know, like, you live in Australia and you might or might not follow cricket. I don't know, but like this cricket World Cup, like, it happens every 4 years, right? Like, there's some kind of, like, expectation, or you're looking forward to that kind of. It's not something that you're looking after. Like, you're looking forward to every 2 years. That just loses its charm, I feel. It doesn't have to, like what you said, like maybe the team is not qualified enough to win this World Cup. Maybe France does not even focus on winning this year's World Cup. Like they focus on winning the European Championships that we are after. But now, like, their main focus, everyone's focus right now is on winning the World Cup next year. Like, obviously, we know, like, the minnows are not going to win them unless they have, like, the spectacular run, like even like Croatia had something like that, like in the last 3 years. But you just lose that kind of, like, even for the fans, like, if I'm talking about me, I'm going to lose that that charm that a World Cup possesses. Like, it's going to arrive in the 4 years. You look forward to so many things. You're like, oh, this team is getting so much stronger. How are they going to perform next year? You're talking about the Belgium's next golden generation. Are they over? Are they ever going to win the World Cup? But like, if you keep doing this major tournament every 2 years, you're never going to have that question, because they're like, okay, you didn't do this, but you're going to have another another tournament, which is the Euros next year. So yeah, perform in that. So it loses its charm. I feel like it's a good idea and it's a bad idea. I don't really know where to go at this moment. I'm not in favor of this 2-year World Cup, even though it possesses a lot more opportunities for the minnows of international football, like even India. Like I would like to see India play in a World Cup, but I know until the day I probably live, I'm not going to see India playing in a World Cup because we don't just have a team. But this 2-year World Cup probably possesses that chance to have India play in a World Cup, like even Bangladesh or Nepal or Sri Lanka, like who are just like lying at the bottom of the table in international football. So that's a good approach by FIFA to actually generate more revenue, probably put more development money in these countries, and then have these countries come up and probably challenge for a place in the World Cup. Let's not talk about winning the World Cup.
I think I think an idea that you and me right now should put onto FIFA is get those clubs involved, get those teams involved, do a World Cup every 4 years, and on every 4 years, but the other one, so when the Euro is happening, do a World Cup of the players that are qualified, that are numerated 100 and under. Do a World Cup
Yeah,
of the
exactly.
of the teams that can't qualify. That would be amazing, and that would be followed by so many people. Do a World Cup that if you're on the top 50 of the FIFA rankings, you can't participate.
Exactly. I feel like,
I'd be so much for that.
I would do that. I would. Let's put out a poll on Twitter and see like how many people agree with that. Yeah, but that's a good idea, because yeah, you get to qualify for that main World Cup, which is like with playing with Argentina, Brazil, France, and all these bigger who are qualified. Have good teams. You have your international ranking within 100. These are the teams who are going to play in that qualifying tournament. You play that, and then after that 2-year World Cup, which is going to happen, is going to be below 100, and then from there, whoever gets qualified again, you play that same qualifying tournament, but it happens for only the under 100 teams, which then you will see the minnows of international football to play against each other, and it might just possess it might just bring up some weird results, and because of that, maybe even let's say even India, who wins the World Cup, let's say if they are able to win the World Cup, maybe Indian government puts more money into international football, or soccer, and probably we get more players. Obviously, India is doing a lot more things related to football, like generating more leagues within their country. And we're not going to talk about that right now, but yeah, they are doing some things so that we get the players so that they can perform at the international football, and we have an international team who can compete at actually the highest level of the international football. That being said, how likely do you think that how soon all this is going to be decided?
Well, I think the lobby is well in place, so I have a feeling that it's like in my heart of hearts, I think it's happening regardless. And if it's not a World Cup every 2 years in the way it's done now, it's some kind of another major tournament, like maybe the idea that we just said would happen every 2 years. Because otherwise, I feel like you know how it is. Those stories, they don't come out unless the people that are in charge think that it's almost done. And I've seen in France, the pundits, some of them, they are definitely lobbying for it. They're, oh yeah, I have argument against it, but all this is great. So I think the lobbying is already happening, and when there's lobby, I'm always afraid that means the decision is already made. That said, FIFA has had a couple of setbacks this season with their Club World Cup and other things that Infantino has tried. So maybe it won't happen. But this one, I have a feeling that they're lobbying pretty hard, and right now, as we all know, even if football is more followed in Europe, a lot of the money is not in Europe. I wouldn't be surprised if they make it happen.
Great. I think that pretty much sums it up, and I hope like our viewers enjoyed our conversation. If the World Cup every 2 years is actually a good idea or not, let us know what do you think in the comments below, if you think that's a good idea or not, and if you agree with Jeremy and our idea, maybe FIFA actually takes that into consideration. Never know that. let's put out
Let's
a
get it
tweet
started.
definitely. Let's put out a tweet and see if actually gets any kind of momentum to it. So thanks again, Jeremy, for joining and presenting your
Thanks,
thoughts
Rishabh.
on this topic. Before we log off, definitely please go like and share, subscribe to our channel, The Late Winner Show, for listening to more conversations like this, more podcasts like this. We did recently release an audio podcast as well. So we're going to do that weekly. Our latest episode has already arrived on Sunday. Please make sure that you listen to it and see if you like what our thinking is on that. That being said, also like, share, and subscribe to 𝗕𝗲𝗓𝗔𝗍 podcast as well, who runs a League and Formers for FC podcast. We can leave the links in the description below. But it's all about French league, French football. Anybody who's interested in French football, gaining more knowledge, I think he's the man to go with. And I think that's it. So Jeremy, once again, thank you so much, and I'll see you later.
Thanks, Rishabh. See you soon. Thanks, everyone.
Good night.